right, next we have our joint meeting
Yep.
with the Gilmington Board.
Next, now it's still on the 17th on there. Okay, that's a correction on the agenda. The joint meeting is back to the original date of June 10th. We have two annual meetings that are jointly held with the Gilmington School Board, one in the fall at Guilford High School and one in the spring at Gilmington School. So we are scheduled, after a bit of scheduling issue, to meet in Gilmington next Tuesday, June 10th at 6 o'clock at the Gilmington School. We have our student recognition will take place at that time. We have had a request from the Gilmington Board for more information on the presentation on the YRBS that was presented to the Guilford Board last month. Some discipline data from the high school that reflect some very good trends. And hopefully a signed and sealed memorandum of understanding with the Shaker Regional School District for our cooperative football team. And if there are any other items you'd like to see on the agenda, would like Mr. Fossey and I to develop before next Tuesday, let me know now or later.
Anyone? Thank you. Staff nominations, go ahead.
Yep, I've got one staff nomination, non-public, for our next piece of business tonight. And also a request for summer authorization for hiring, for you to grant that to me for the summer months. That we've not had to put that in play in my 3 years because of the meetings of the board and the very little turnover that we've experienced. But we do, as a precaution, add that to the June agenda for your approval. So
And that would be in conjunction with you and I.
Yes.
So I need a motion on that so that we can hire and then we ratify it at the next board meeting so we don't lose any qualified candidates. Second. Questions?
The only thing to add to that, we have one vacant professional position in the district at this point, the 1st of June. So we're in a very good place.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Energy management.
We've got a couple of considerations for you. You can send that down to Frank and Adam. These were in your packet, but came a little bit late with that. Jack. Kurt. Coming the other way, yeah. Sue. Ray. And I think that takes care of board members. Scott? Oh, and Tim.
Yeah,
Sorry, Tim.
Tim's-
Yep.
Thank you. Tim Butler, our supervisor of building grounds, is here tonight. We've got two proposals for you to consider. I'll give you the 30,000-foot view, and then if you want to get down to any specific details, Tim is here to answer those. What we're coming to you tonight for is a request for the replacement of our energy management system in the school district. Right now, we have a Invensys Niagara energy management software that operates the HVAC system and the heating system in the 3 schools. That system was put in back about 11 years ago, Tim?
Yes.
About 11 years ago when we did the major renovation to the high school and the new middle school. During the budgetary process, the vendor Tim meets with the vendor periodically to go over any changes they have or considerations. When Tim sat down with them, they did not give us notification that as of December 1st, 2014, that system no longer would be supported by our service provider. So Tim was not able to put that into the budget at the time that we presented to you and then to the budget committee. So basically where we are right now is Tim was recently notified that after December 1st, 2014, they will no longer provide any technical support for the energy management system. So what that really means is if we have a major system failure after that point, we have no control over our energy management system. We can't turn the heat on or remotely or shut it down or turn on the AC or shut
Remotely. We can do it manually. Not even manual.
Not even manual. Unless you went through and turned every valve and device,
Great.
thousands of them. So what we've come before you is, so this is news that we were just hit with recently. We have 2 proposals for you. The first one is a complete replacement of the energy management system. What we'd be looking at is putting in a new system at the elementary school here, and then a shared system between the middle school and high school. The cost to replace that system is $65,000. So we have option number 2, which is the Band-Aid approach, quite frankly. And what that means is that basically what we would do is we would purchase one backup server and load the current software system on the server and basically put it on the shelf. And if we had a failure of one of the servers in the system, then we could do a plug and play and put that in. That's a Band-Aid approach. That will cost us about $10,000. But unless we have another failure beyond that, that may get us through the next fiscal year so we can put it into the budget. After that fiscal year, we'll basically throw that system away. So what we're really looking at here is a complete replacement of the system where we replace the 3 servers in these 3 schools here. We get a new software system and then also a new remote system so that Tim, as he does now, is he can remotely access the system on nights that we get extreme cold temperatures. He's at home and understands that's going to be dropping and things like that. So the thing I really want to emphasize, because Tim has always been right on with bringing proposals through the budgetary process. In this case, it was truly the vendor did not notify him until recently of this. So I really want to stress that because Tim does go into a great deal with the school board and budget committee when we have these major system changes. This was a complete surprise to us.
It came after the fact, when we needed to turn in the
It
budget.
came a month ago.
January 1st.
So we're asking you to approve the expense of $55,000 so that we can work on the system this summer. Right now, we do have a fund balance available in 2 accounts that we can use to fund this. What we have is $74,000 in the workers' compensation insurance line and the unemployment compensation insurance line. What we received this year from Primex, which is our insurance provider, was that they did have a surplus in funds from prior years throughout their whole insurance pool. They did not charge us this year for our workers' compensation. That's where the bulk of that money to offset the expenditure would come from. And then we did have some funds available for our unemployment compensation. The good thing is we've been able to retain people in the district, so we haven't had to pay out unemployment compensation. So again, we're giving you two approaches. Our recommendation would be to go with option 1, but we do have a 10,000 plug and play one that would give us a backup server to plug in. If we did still have a major software malfunction or failure, then we would not have a system in place during that time of the program. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view. Tim can get way more technical than I can, so that's what we asked.
Questions? Yeah?
Yeah, by replacing the entire system, would you gain any energy efficiencies, or is this strictly a control system?
It's strictly the software program. It's like changing from Windows 95 to being upgraded to Windows 7. It's comparable. As far as added energy savings, we're maximizing our energy savings as much as possible now with the systems being operated by the computer software. The problem is that it's 11 years old and the support's going to go away. And if it fails, we have no way to control the system at all.
Thank you.
Okay, so you say we need, you gotta replace the server and 3 computers, and then I'm assuming that the software is also included in the $65K
That's
price tag.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm assuming then that the current server and computers are also very old?
11 years.
11 years, okay. But still, a server and 3 computers
Not a large part of the package.
should not be that much money. I mean, how much is the software?
The bulk of it is the purchase of software, the installation of the software, and then the testing of the software. So the software is the bulk of it.
That's correct. The hardware isn't that expensive. The original quotation they gave me was somewhere around $57,000 without the hardware. It's at 61,000 for hardware, software. Then we throw in the cost of the payment performance bond and the contingency, or 65,000.
So that's mighty expensive software. Is that our only alternative?
It's a proprietary system at this point. If you want to change, you go to something else, you're looking at 3 to 4 times as much money, because all the controllers in the building on the individual units would have to be changed.
Okay, so what you're telling me is we're still dealing with the same company?
Yes, we are.
That notified us at the last minute that they were no longer support their own software.
But the alternative would be change the whole company and the whole hardware to match that. So really, the decision when we did the building project 11 years ago was to choose the vendor because they have a proprietary system. Now, up until this point, we had a very good relationship with them. This was a disappointment.
Anyone else?
The other, I just want to make more of an observation that even your option 2 really only covers hardware. It doesn't really cover the software. So if you have a software bug,
That is correct.
the one on the shelf has the same bug as the one in the production has
That is correct.
But we were at least trying to cover if
to.
something.
Yeah, no, I just want to
Something
make sure
breaks
everyone
down.
recognize that there's still a risk there even with that.
Realize the sensitivities of this coming after the budgetary process.
Okay.
So let me clear, so this expenditure would be included in next year's budget if we didn't approve it tonight, because it's a necessary.
Yes.
That's correct. And
Just wanna make
that's
sure.
and
Yes.
that's why we put the 10,000 in to hopefully get us through next year so it could become part of the budgetary process. But points well taken.
But then we would pay $10,000 to get us through this year, and then another $65,000 or maybe more if the price goes up next year.
That's correct.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Motion? Which option do you want?
Which option?
Just stand by based on option, Jack.
Yeah, based on option 1.
Want to make a motion for option 1?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for option 1. Is there any other discussion?
Does this involve Gilman voting on this?
It's affecting the high school too, so I would say yes, please join us.
Have we voiced our displeasure with the company?
Yes.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approval of option 1 for a price tag of $65,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just as a point of reference, what I used to do in cases like this is I will let the chairman of the budget committee know what happens if this, and then we'll go through the budgetary process. Even though what happens on the records. Again, we don't like to come to this after it's passed.
Right.
If I could just start the next consideration for you is an upgrade and replacement of network switches. If you recall, last year at this time, we received a very detailed technology upgrade report from Mainstay Computing and Technologies in Laconia, and they gave us a prioritized list of improvements to our network infrastructure, and we have been following those recommendations, and you have accepted those last year, and that has been a very good move for us in terms of the infrastructure in the district. Scott's going to speak to here, and you've got some details and backup from Brenda McGee, is an upgrade and replacement of some of the network switches, again, following the next step of that Mainstay technology plan. So with that, I guess I'll ask you to take a look at the backup on the second page from Brenda about these core switches and what their purposes are and what their approximate costs are. And we are looking at total expenditure proposed of what?
83.8.
83.8, thank you.
So again, 30,000 foot view, and I won't pretend that I can really get down to the low level, but what we're looking at here is in the technology, in the Mainstay plan, Mainstay did recommend that the district stop looking at the infrastructure of the school district. We've got anywhere from category 3 to category 5 wired here. Also, again, back when the middle school and high school was either built or renovated, the switches were put in that time. So we have switches in those two facilities, and then over here, about 10 to 11 years old. As we started putting in the new started working on the new telephone system, when the engineer came through to put together those specs, they started opening up the ceilings and looking through there. They did discover that an upgrade was needed. So we are coming forward with a recommendation to provide additional funds to do this additional work while we're putting in the telephone system. And it's not just with the telephone system. You know, the network switches also serve the computer, telephone, and the wireless network. Different about this one is, this is one that is consistent with the mainstay recommendation. This is not one that is system critical. So if you don't support this today, then we will be coming forward through the budget process next year. We do have funds available. We didn't have the savings in the amount of oil we burnt this year, but we were able to negotiate a very competitive cost per gallon. So we do have funds available in that account. Also in the electricity account at the elementary school. We entered into a cooperative purchase plan with the town on electricity, so we did have some funds available on that. So as Ken said, the cost of upgrading and replacing the existing switches is $83,800. The offsetting funds that are available in the budget at the end of this year is about $89,000 in electricity. So again, this is one that's not mission critical, but consistent with the mainstay recommendation.
The way we approached this last one.
Questions?
Since we got the report from Mainstay last year, why didn't this go through the budget process?
We chose to, the highest priority coming through, which was from Mainstay, was the telephone system, which was $200,000. And then also replacement of some of the older computers that weren't Windows 7 or XP. So in prioritizing that we did through that, and trying to keep a budget within 2%. This was on the original recommendation, but didn't make it to the final presentation from that.
Anyone else? God, I'm just looking at the two different, there's a discrepancy in numbers. Should I be looking at the 83.8 that you talked about, or the 74 on this other sheet?
Well, again, those are approximate numbers that Brenda has given us. We haven't gone out to bid on this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's an estimate.
And where did the 83.8 come from?
The 83.8 came from when Brenda went through with her. She had contracted with an engineer to come through to do a survey of the systems. That was the number that he had estimated. I hadn't seen that sheet, but knowing Brenda, she probably shaved it down as version.
Yep.
But
Okay.
this was the best estimate that the engineer had.
Where would this be on the priority list for next year's budget?
Thing we come in with. Because it's the next thing in line.
I'm uncomfortable with doing, I don't have a problem when there are things we don't know about that we have to use unexpected funds for. I'm not really comfortable with things that were dropped off the priority list to keep the budget where we wanted it, and then totally bypassing the budget process. So,
I have to agree, considering that one is only a year old and then two of them can be replaced next year.
yeah, well, the one that's a year old is still going to be used. It's just going to be used in a different role.
Right. But I can't see us replacing them right now.
No, it's not being replaced. It's going to be continued to be used, but.
Yeah, that just gets
But-
moved down in
right,
priority.
But I guess my point is, considering that it can go another year, I'd rather have it go through the budget process.
Anyone else?
And my question for curiosity was there an impetus aside from the recommendation to go to 10 gig? Is there any supporting documentation or facts that you're oversubscribed in your core network or? Not sure. Okay.
This came from the Mainstay
Yeah, no,
study they did last year.
It'd be really helpful if they could show, somewhat of a.
I know,
You're a tech guy, you always know more bandwidth is better.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone loves more bandwidth.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm reflecting the recommendations came from that. Obviously, Brenda, you probably could have the tech discussion that I just faced.
You may want to check with Brenda.
So we wanted to bring that to your attention tonight. If that's where the pleasure of the board is, then that will just work out next on our priority list.
Yep. Sounds like
I'm
there's
not
no
comfortable
motion that's
not-
being brought forward, so that's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
So we're
Thank you.
basically just
Yeah.
by consensus agreeing to
There's no motion.
go through the, okay.
You approved the mission critical thing that we really came to you for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Okay, we're going to come to our second public comment, and again, we still have a large number of people here, so a show of hands as to how many people, Guilford residents that are planning on speaking, please. So we only have 2 individuals that are planning on speaking. Okay, I'll open up the floor, and I am going to, again, just state for anyone that's new that has walked in since we opened up the initial public comment, we ask that you state your name and address. This agenda item is given to an opportunity for Guilford residents to have a voice and for the Guilford School District to hear what you have to say. It's not intended as a question and answer period. Questions about our practices or specific programs, we ask that you direct directly to the administrator during business school hours. And who would like to start? Joe?
Joe Wernick, 3 Garrick Circle. I want to commend Kurt for bringing up the topic earlier, and I want to go on record that I agree with Skip on something. As far as the year-round schooling, as an educator and as a parent, I am all for it, and I wish there was some way we could get society to get into it. I know that is a hard thing to do, but I commend you for doing that once a year, and there we go, Skip. We agree on something.
Gosh, the first time in what, 6 years?
Yeah.
Skip, did you want to speak?
Yeah, a couple of things. It was mentioned since the last public input that there was going to be a committee for looking at the different materials, curriculum materials here in the district. I would like to immediately nominate Billy Bear to be on that committee if it would so please the board. I also have I have a hard time with what was said about the server. Being the former vice chair of the budget committee here in Guilford, there was a lot of acrimony built up when excess funds from the school district were spent outside of the budget process, especially for things that had already been approved for the next year. And just saying, well, we had to do it now versus later, just didn't make it. I understand you have the excess funds, but $65,000 for a new server and software is a bit much, and I think you're doing a disservice to the taxpayers of us here in Guilford by not going through that process. Now, sometimes I don't always get things right, so I'm going to ask a point of clarification versus a question. But you heard about this on January 1, correct? About the change with the vendor? That still would have been in time to be brought up during the deliberative session, and the budget could have been amended at that time. And instead, you've now waited until now to just pop that into the equation. And I think that's a wrong thing to do it, and I'm basically trying to voice my disgust at trying to unravel the legislative process here in Guilford. Another point of clarification, this one's to you, Ken. You said that the policy for a parent who is unhappy with the material would be to go to the principal of that particular school, but that doesn't have the right of appeal to the full school board. Did I hear that correctly?
That's what's stated in the policy, yes, sir.
Outstanding. You proved my point from the first public comment session that here you are, you're supposed to be an accountable board to the taxpayers, to the parents, and you've immediately cut them off at the pass right off the bat. I mean, you showed that last meeting, you've just showed it again. This, it's just, I just love this. I may start coming to more of these meetings because I keep seeing this. Just tonight, you're providing great civics lessons to those who are looking for good governance, open and transparent. And here you are putting yourselves up on a chair in a stage saying, we will talk down to you. You're not important, that we cannot go to our elected representatives. That is wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. And thank you all for attending this evening. I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public session.